So good morning and welcome to Monkhouse on Mondays. We have with us Stephen Scales from ukactive. Morning, Stephen. How are you today?
I'm just smashing, David. How are you?
I'm really well, thank you. I have to say, this is looking very impressive.
But just for those that are listening to this rather than watching the video, as well as I think you're alluding to my beard. At the moment.
I am.
It's slowly getting out of control. But I suppose the main positive around lockdown, David, is that I look dishevelled at the best of times. So the idea of no barbers or beards at the moment is part of the usual look.
Absolutely. And how are you doing for physical activities, Steve? Are you getting out there? Are you cycling? Are you running? What are you up to?
I believe it or not, I am running every now and again, and I'll be the first person to say, as someone that trains in a CrossFit style, ordinarily a member of a CrossFit box, I'm not particularly good at it, and I wouldn't have even said I enjoy it. The only benefit is because I live in the countryside, there's a nice scenery to take in. But and this was when I played team sports and CrossFit, is that the group activity and not showing yourself up is a good way for me to drive myself.
Yeah, I totally agree.
I have to run in a linear fashion, two-way point and back, so there's no shortcuts.
Brilliant. Well, I think you and I together, because I'm missing the hockey and things like that. So, yeah. But let's get to the reason for the conversation. I have to say, Steve, I've been really impressed with the work that ukactive have been doing. There's the stuff I've been reading about, the stuff obviously we get to talk about on the occasions we speak. So what do you think you've achieved in the last 40 days during lockdown?
I think from an achievement perspective, I suppose it's the overall mission of ukactive is, as much as the top line is improving the health of the nation by making more people more active more often, a product of that is making sure there's a fertile climate for growth. Is that the last 40 days, with the challenge that the whole industry has faced, is to initially be in a situation where collectively we understood the levels of risk. This goes back to pre-closure, the understanding of what was a footfall and in turn income sheet that was going through the floor. In lieu of any government support, is what the actual ask was from the sector, and how do we allow it to remain buoyant over a particular period of time. Once that was there, it was making sure that we really understand the sector on a macro level, but also making sure that we support all of the different sector channels, from the multi-sites to the public leisure through to the small independent community groups that exist across the whole member base. So ukactive as an organisation, from the 28 years it's been in existence, has always been a convener of people. I think where we have worked collectively, and this isn't just ukactive, with Sport England, with Simsville, with Community Leisure and other partners, is to make sure that we are aligned in the task at hand, which is buoyancy, moving into recovery, and then growth again. So it's making sure that there's an alignment there, and a lot of that has been based around communication. The aim of ukactive, and a couple of these areas have been announced through the Sport England partnership and through growth of the team. We were aware that we want to continually enhance the value that we provide to our members. And I've had this conversation with you before, David, but ukactive isn't the 60 people that work for ukactive, it's a sum of its parts and its members. And we had invested in additional resource to support that. And fortunately, we're in a situation where we are able to support the sector. But the way I caveat with that is the war isn't won, and to do so is that we're not in a situation of patting ourselves on the back at the moment, whilst being reflective. A lot of work to still be done.
No, absolutely, and I think that reflection stuff is really important. It's something I've been doing through the process of recording these conversations. The thing that has always impressed me about ukactive is that ability to lobby. It's about knowing who to talk to, when to talk to them, and what types of things to talk about to some extent. So Hugh was on Radio 5 Live the other day. I heard him, and it was a really interesting interview with Nicky Campbell. But I'd be interested to know what you guys are currently lobbying for. What are you talking about in the corridors of power at the moment?
So I suppose there's two main areas. There's the areas where there are still unresolved issues around this closure period, looking at the access to loans, looking at, although some green shoots, the challenges around landlords, and then from a public sector perspective, but importantly, is in mothballing facilities, the support and the inconsistency has been apparent across the board. Now, the challenge for that isn't me pointing the finger at local authorities, it's about the whole system, and making sure that we can support, whether it be private or I suppose this example in the public sector, of making sure that there is a clear awareness of what support is required, and it's cash to remain buoyant in this closure period. And then moving into the reopening as and when that will come. And another area that I want to emphasise on that is UK Active is fundamentally the government's decision as to when we will open. Our responsibility as an organisation and as an industry is to make sure that we are ready for that. And also to make sure that we are in a situation where possible we can control our own destiny based on facts, based on the expertise of the sector. From a policy perspective, I think there's a broad awareness that recovery is likely to be slow, directly linked to consumer confidence, and I'll come on to a few areas around that. But broadly, from a policy call perspective, and where we're working with government, is around workforce, is around the sector's viability, it's around local authority specifically, rent that I just touched on there, and also with a huge area of our business or organisation led by Jack Shakespeare is the children, young people and families agenda. Going into those specific areas is that we would like the job retention scheme continued to at least October, because what we want to be able to do with organisations, or for however long necessary on the end of that, there are particular areas of service that will be more viable than others. At the same time, we want to protect jobs. We are confident that, and this could be looking as far into next year when vaccines and when restrictions are a thing of the past, the services that our members provide, there is a huge value to. However, there is a responsibility to protect those jobs. The other key areas is making sure that there is clarity for the sector, that the removal of the job retention scheme there's enough notice behind that, so that organisations are able to make informed decisions around their staff to be able to protect them. And then the other area is around salary support. So with the understanding that, because and there's varying figures being floated around the sector, is we are doing some quite deep economic modelling on recovery on different scenarios at the moment. But organisations will need a level of support to maintain the salaries of the people that are in. When we're looking at the basics, as I call it, customer care and cleanliness, is making sure that we have a workforce and able to do that. As we look into sector viability, two main areas on that focus. One around the freezing of payroll and national insurance and additional cost there. The second area is looking at a VAT output tax rebate. So from 20% to 10%. The reason we're calling on that is, and thing to note, and I'll get on to the local authorities and public sector, is that there are the larger organisations as well as small independent businesses where the ability to reclaim some of that money will support the viability. We're not going to say all problems. And the thing to note on, I suppose, those two areas is we don't see this as an either or options. We see that this is the position of UK Active in the industry. As we move on to local authorities, one of the challenges has been the money through the system. There is, on average, the cost is about £60,000 per site per month in a mothball state. That's taken into account the job retention scheme and wider support. So there are organisations, trusts, leisure providers who are burning reserves up to that point. And the challenge is, even with the additional £1.6 billion that was announced back into the system, that's going to black hole, which absolutely is the case for adult social care and the money that spending. But so what we're calling for is specific ring fence support for public leisure facilities and providers.
Right.
And also going into, I suppose, the detail, and these areas are published on our website, are ensuring that local authorities have the means to be able to support their contractual relationships, and clarification within that procurement guidance of making sure that where fees and rent are payable by operators and local authorities, that is addressed, because at the moment it's silent on the issue. And I suppose those three main areas is we are hopeful we'll continue to work with government that we can push those areas through.
Yeah.
But we have an obligation, the government have an obligation to ensure that there is clarity as to what the future holds. And as I said, with regards to rent and landlords, about extending the memorandum of forfeitures. And as we look at wider activity in children, young people and families, about the ring fencing of school sports premium, about this 40% of sporting facilities in the country that sit behind school gates. How are these wider system? Because the challenges around inactivity that were in existence aren't going to go away.
And it's really interesting you start talking about what the future is going to look like. You talk about the schools and things like that. We've only got really a couple of minutes left of the conversation, Steve, but what sort of advice have you got for supporting the reopening? You know, is there somewhere we can all go and have a look to see at the type of stuff you produced and things like that?
Yes, absolutely. It's the easiest website to remember of ukactive.com. 4 key areas to look out for. First and foremost, which by the time this beams out to the world, because of course it's Monday and this is live, on our website, our operational framework will be there. That is the requirements that we've been working with government on. That in the event of we'll give guidance across facility types. Second area off the rank coming in just over a week's time will be the economic modelling, and it's an opportunity based on consumer confidence for people to use that information to inform their business. And of course, working with LeisureNet on the consumer confidence angle there. Continue to use those that insight, the conversation with members, to make sure that we can paint a more accurate picture with government to ensure that we get those through. And where we are ready and waiting and working with sport owners, making sure that we have the relevant campaigns to re-stimulate market confidence moving forward.
Yeah, it's a really interesting word, that confidence, isn't it? Because it's the confidence of operators to be able to open up. It's the confidence of customers as to whether they're going to cross the threshold and walk into the door. And I guess it's all linked to the benefits that we all know why we're part of this sector, the benefits of physical activity to mental health and physical health, and how that outweighs that confidence levels. So just as a closing remark, Steve, I think, you know, as I said, I've been so impressed with what you guys have done. What's the one thing that you've learned personally from the last 40 days?
Remain calm, deal with the facts, and formulate and test your own opinion in the situations. Is that an awful lot of commentary around what the sector is going to look like. You're in control of your own destiny to a point. We at UKactive are here to support, and collectively we'll lead each other through challenging time. So, however, remain calm.
I think that's a really good message to close on, Steve. Thank you so much for your time. Really impressed. Say thank you to all the guys at UKactive for us, and we'll catch up very soon. Take care, Steve. Thank you. Bye-bye.